to dive into some more advanced boost control concepts, things that you can do depending on your application to improve how the car reacts. Now, keep in mind this is generic. It is based on a street log to an extent, but your particular setup, whether it's rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, or front-wheel drive, is probably going to vary a lot, especially based on tires, surface prep. You know, if you're at a track, even a track might vary from one to the next, day to day. But this will give you an idea of some of the options, some of the different things you can do to customize your car to really make it work better. But keep in mind, it's possible to go overboard. So, as Grandpa used to say, keep it simple. We don't want to go too crazy, make the car uncontrollable. And I actually kind of have an example of that so that you can see how easy it would be to do technically. Anyway, let's jump into the data. We're going to open up AEM Infinity software. We're going to take a look at 96.3. It has 4 target tables. We're not really going to talk about the duty cycle table. I'm going to switch to that here real fast for just a second. This is your target, or not your target, but rather your base wastegate duty cycle table for a given boost level. You can use multiple of that. Realistically, unless you're using multiple solenoids or something, one gets the job done. You can change it versus some other parameters you want, like this table's not really populated, but it has air temp here versus gear. For sake of discussion, 0 to 100, one solenoid, we're just going to use this one table. But what we're going to change, where this is going to differ, switching back, is how we choose a target based on conditions. So you always have to have some sort of a base table. In that case, we're going to have boost target table 1 is going to be our quote-unquote base table. This is the lowest that we think the boost should ever be under any circumstance, because we're going to have the modifiers in these other tables. We're going to get to that in a second. So in this particular case, it's RPM versus gear. This car was a Turbo K24, but we can see that first gear targeting 160 kPa, about 8 pounds, 180 kPa in second, so about 12, 14 and a half in third, fourth and fifth. We go up another 20 and 40 kPa respective from third, so another 3 pounds, another 6 pounds. Then this car had a mode switch, and we left it per gear to make up for surface condition changes, a few other things. But as you can see, we have 10 different selections on the mode switch. This particular one, we weren't using anything, so there was no real modifier here. So the target at this point would have been the 200 kPa, or 14.5 pounds of boost. Now, I wasn't actually using these next 2 tables, but it's an example of how you might set it up. We have ground speed on boost target table 3. We have ground speed versus launch ramp time. So in this ECU, you can use the clutch switch to start a timer that as soon as the car leaves, this is going to start populating versus time. We're about 10 seconds into this particular run. It was third gear pull only. It wasn't a drag strip style pull where we were in every gear. But we also can do, and this is a little more advanced, but if you have traction control, we have torque request reduction, or torque reduction request, as an axis versus engine speed. So I normally don't like taking away boost, but it's a possibility. And you're going to see here real quick where this particular car could have been fighting itself if these 2 tables were active. So we look here, we see our speed's about 80 miles an hour. As I mentioned, it was 10 seconds into the pull. So if we trace up, if it had been used, the only modifier here would have been, it would have added 45 to third gear, so targeting about 21 pounds in third gear. Now I was logging wheel slip and torque reduction request because this particular car has traction control, but you can see that it would have been pulling 17.5 kPa right back off that target because of slip. So in reality what was happening was it was spinning at 14.5 pounds. K24, lots of torque, fairly fast spool. The car hadn't been corner balanced after things had been changed. It was more just to make sure the car was going to work. But in this particular instance, you could set it up and shoot yourself in the foot because you're adding here, taking away here, when really probably should have just adjusted something else. Maybe 200 kPa isn't really the lowest that it should be. Maybe we should have took off another 20 everywhere. It's always situational. It's always based on surface. It's based on tires. It's based on car setup. So there's a few modifiers to keep in mind. The main part of this video isn't to talk about that, however. It's just to point out that we have a lot of different ways we can control boost, and your ECU may be different. Maybe in Honda you don't have these options. You can only do it per gear, which you would have a table something like this. Maybe you have a Series 2, AEM Series 2. Again, you would have these, but in different versions. You can also do it versus throttle. So there's a few ways to control that. Maybe you have a Haltech or a Motec, and you're only limited by your imagination. But the main takeaway here should be that there's not really going to be one setting that's going to cover everything. Because if there was, we'd all just use manual boost controllers. We wouldn't have any additional help to try to control the boost. So hopefully this helps you get some ideas on how you might want to set up your car, make it faster, make it more fun. Anyway, if this is content that you like, please think about subscribing. Please hit the like button. Please share with your friends. Let me know what you would change, what you need more information on, so that we can cover that in the future. Thanks, guys. Take care.